What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from the Token Minorities, and I am back with the Round 3 Battle of the Summer Showdown All-Star Surge format tournament, where your Kansas City Jirachiefs are taking on King L5, the coach of the Oakland Roseraiders and the champion of the most recent March Madness tournament that TTM hosted back in, I believe, very early March this year. So definitely a very strong opponent we have this week, one of the absolute best in the format, and you know, I'm really excited for it as well. But before we jump into the team I'm bringing here in the matchup, let's talk a little bit about the transactions that we made for this week. Just as a reminder, in case this is your first time watching one of these Surge format videos, every single round we are able to improve our draft by making transactions. We have extra points that we can spend every single round to improve our transactions or to improve our roster, and this week is no exception. So the mons that are leaving the team for this week are Ambipom. Unfortunately, Ambipom, very cool mon, but was not really great for this specific matchup. I didn't really feel like I needed it anymore for my team. And then Houndoom is the other Pokemon that is leaving the roster at this time. However, in exchange for those Pokemon, was able to pick up a few cool new team members as well, including Hawkeye the Hawlucha, including Coulson the Volcanion, and Munchlax, which I never actually ended up nicknaming because, spoilers, is not on the team. You can already see that in front of you now. So never got a nickname for Munchlax that was picked up, but it did probably force some prep here in this matchup for sure, as overall it felt like it actually matched up pretty decently against L5's team here. So with all that said, we can go ahead and jump right on into the team matchup, as my opponent L5 has access to the Rotom Heat, the Registeel, Greninja, Kyurem, Golurk, Venomoth, Terrakion, and Meowstic, with his Z-Captain being his Venomoth. My Z-Captain on my squad is still the Cobalion in this case. So the matchup overall is pretty interesting. There's a lot of things I think I can do in this matchup. Most notably, I can really abuse the fact that I have a dual fighting core now. By picking up Hawlucha in conjunction with the Z-Cobalion, that combination can put in a lot of damage against L5's team. I think it can just basically punch through him really well, to the point where other mons on my team could potentially win, or maybe just those two alone might be able to pull through in the end offensively in this matchup. So that's kind of what I'm going for here with this team build. I had a lot of other options that I think complement that dual fighting core really well, and are able to combat his mons. For example, something that's kind of annoying from his side is that Meowstic. Surprisingly, it's a very cheap mon, only costed 3 points for his team, but the fact that he has access to priority dual screens is very annoying for offensive win conditions like my Cobalion and like my Hawluchas. So I need to make sure I have a way basically to combat that option, even if it's maybe not the most likely mon for him to bring. I still think he very well could bring it, and yeah, it's just something I need to keep in mind there for sure. Venomoth's obviously a big threat as well, with it being its Z-Captain, and with him having access to Sleep Powder as well as Quiver Dance, it is quite a big threat. Tinted Lens also, of course, means that he's able to hit my what normally would be resistances to Venomoth for at least neutral damage, so that's potentially a threat to be concerned about as well. But also the Golurk is something I have my eye on here in this matchup, just because I want to build around this dual fighting core, and obviously Golurk would be able to resist my stab fighting attacks, so I need to make sure I have a good plan of attack to help me deal with that Golurk that's otherwise going to be a bit of a nuisance for the core that I'm trying to build around. So let's take a look very briefly at the matchup, or at the team that I'm bringing here for this match, and then we'll jump on into the battle. So this week I am starting this off with a Cobalion, which is Rock Polish, Taunt, and then dual stab with Steelium Z, and an Adamant Nature with max attack. So basically this is meant to try to set up on something like his Registeel, maybe even set up on his Venomoth, and proceed to either break through his team or maybe even sweep through his team after I get a sufficient amount of hazards on the field. I'm going to try to hazard stack him here in this matchup, as I feel like that's very good against him. His only removal is the Rotom Heat, which is not the best defogger at all. It's actually not a good defogger in my opinion at all, so I feel like I should be able to really pressure him with hazards, which makes something like this a really good win condition against him. Taunt is to ensure that I can set up on the Registeel and also deny the Venomoth from going for Sleep Powder or Quiver Dance in my face. allowing me to have a very free rock polish essentially. And once I have that rock polish up and I have the hazards, necessary hazards on the field, this thing just plows through almost his entire team. The only thing that can really stand a chance of taking a hit is maybe that Golurk, but if I'm able to get up full layers of hazards, I should be able to knock that thing out with a Steel EMZ. What's it called? Corkscrew Crash, Adamant Max attack from this thing. After 3 layers of spikes and rocks, it should knock out Golurk unless it's like a defensive variant. So I think this can definitely serve as a good win condition, if not just a great way of breaking down what is probably his best response to my Hawlucha. Hawlucha, a Choice Scarf variant this week with Limber as my ability, because what this means is that he cannot Prankster Thunderwave me with his Meowstic. It also means that if maybe for some reason he is a Choppleberry Registeel, which is not that unlikely, he would not be able to paralyze me with that either, which otherwise would be kind of annoying for this mon, obviously. So this is just really good against him. It's able to outspeed all of his fastest threats. It outspeeds all of his potential Scarfers. I think the only exception here is if he's actually Scarf Terrakion. I don't believe I have enough investment to outspeed Scarf Terrakion because I really wanted to have the Adamant Nature, but even so, I should be able to take any one hit from Terrakion anyways, just due to Hawlucha's natural bulk. So that won't be too big of an issue, but combination of Dual Stab and U-Turn, just really good against his team. Opted to run both Low Kick and High Jump Kick because of the potential for Golurk, and also just because if I don't want to miss, Low Kick is still pretty good against a lot of his mons. High Jump Kick is just nice to have as an option in case he has maybe the Rotom Heat in the back, as Rotom Heat is a very light Pokemon. Low Kick would not do very much damage to it. So the next up is my Volcanion. Basically just meant to help me deal with an early game Meowstic. If he decides to have like a full game plan revolving around early game screens, this would allow me to have a response to that, in addition to in itself being a pretty good win condition against his team, or maybe just a good breaker against his team as well. Having Flame Charge in addition to my Dual Stab and Flamethrower and Steam Eruption is very good against his team, especially with Volcanion's natural bulk. Maxing out his HP stat here really helps it chew up the hits from a lot of his team. Like, this is a good switch into Kyurem potentially. It's a good switch into Greninja. It's a decent switch into Venomoth if I need it to be. So it can switch into some of his threats and immediately be a threat of its own. Then I do have Brick Break on this set, obviously, to help me out against the dual screens, as I think it's likely enough for those to come to where I probably should bring something like that on my team, and it fit best on Volcanion here in this matchup. Now, next up is the Swampert, just a defensive tank meant to set up Stealth Rocks in this matchup, and he really doesn't appreciate switching into my Dual Stab, Scald, and Earthquake, and then Roar just to help me shuffle his team around on all the hazards. Then I have my Roseraid, which is a Spiker. I probably am only going to go for Spikes if he either gives me a very free turn to do so, or if he has Golurk on his team. If he has Golurk on his team, I'm going to make it an absolute priority to get Spikes on the field here in this matchup, because I really need those Spikes on the field to be able to wear the Golurk down into range of my Cobalion. So I am running Natural Cure on a Choice Scarf set with Hidden Power Fire because of the whole Thunder Wave situation once again between the Meowstic and the Registeel. I thought that was a good idea to do. And then Dual Stab is just very good against this team. I played around with a lot of items on this Roseraid, but Choice Scarf was by far the best, I think, just because it had a lot more utility when it had the Choice Scarf. And then finally, it is the Gardevoir Assault Vest this week, able to chew a hit from pretty much anything on his team, able to chew from the Greninja, chew from the Kyurem, two of the bigger special threats against me. Sure, they can both run potentially like physically offensive, super effective coverage, but with the bulk that I have on this Gardevoir, I could take pretty much any hit from either of them as needed and retaliate with the appropriate coverage. So that is the team for this week. We can go ahead and hop right on over to the match, and we are on Showdown this week. Unfortunately, we weren't able to play on Wi-Fi. I don't think King L5 has access to Wi-Fi, unfortunately, so it is what it is, but we'll deal with it here. As we can see at Team Preview, L5 decided to bring the Terrakion, Greninja, Kyurem, Registeel, Meowstic, and the Venomoth, which means there is no Golurk on his team, and I'm very happy about that. There's also no Rotom Heat, so there's absolutely no chance that he could have hazard removal on his team, which makes my early game hazards that much better of an option here in this matchup for sure. So I've already talked about the game plan. He has 4 mons that are weak to fighting on this team. That's really, really good news for the team that I decided to bring here for this matchup. And, you know, we can go ahead and jump right on into this, and we can see what happens here, as I'm going to lead off with my Swampert, as he leads off with the Greninja. I take a bit of a risk here on turn 1 and decide to leave my Swampert in just in case, just to get my Stealth Rock up. If he had Life Orb Grass Knot, that could have actually taken me out there on that turn. But I felt like it was worth the risk to get those Stealth Rocks up early in the game, as having those Stealth Rocks up early are going to be able to break potential sashes and allow me to pretty much set up with my Cobalion whenever I have an opportunity in this game. So he's just going to go for a spike of his own as I get up my rocks. So we trade hazards. Here I'm going to go straight into my Roseraid, knowing that I can immediately threaten this Greninja. I am Choice Scarf, and there's a chance he'll just try to go for a 3rd layer. And if he does that, I might be able to just knock that thing right out, or at least severely weaken it into range of Stealth Rock with a Choice Scarf Giga Drain. This is going to go into his Registeel. Good play on his end. I'm just going to go straight into my Swampert on his Stealth Rock. So he got his hazards up pretty quickly in this matchup, but that's not really the worst thing in the world, just due to the nature of how my team actually works. As I'm just going to fire off the Scald as he goes into the Kyurem. I'm going to take the hit from the Kyurem, which turned out to be an Ice Beam, and just roar him out, forcing something else to take hazards damage and maybe put myself in an advantageous position, as he's going to get roared into his Terrakia and then go back into his Kyurem. I'm able to catch and burn on that with the Scald once again, which is nice, as now, just in case he had like Iron Head or something, it means that my Gardevoir would be able to take any hit from this thing. The only thing I really feared was a potential Iron Head from a mixed Kyurem, and now I know for a fact it's not a threat anymore at all. So I'm going to lose my Volcanion here, trying to catch him going for a Hidden Power Grass on my Swampert. I thought he might have that in this matchup. If anything, I thought he would actually just go for another Ice Beam. Unfortunately, I lose my Volcanion there, which is a little bit annoying late game when it comes to dealing with the Meowstic, but we'll see how that comes into play here later on. As I'm just going to go into my Scarf Hawlucha, knowing that I should be able to claim a kill here. He has really no reason to try to preserve his Kyurem when it's going to die to rocks anyways, so I'm going to be able to just knock the thing out with a low kick. Now here he goes into his Meowstic, most likely to try to set up his screens at this point in the game, but this gives me a chance to go into my Gardevoir and start dealing some damage against him, as I really don't fear anything from this Meowstic, and if anything, I might be able to actually get a little bit of free damage off on an incoming Greninja or Registeel with the Focus Blast, and that's exactly what I'm able to do here. So I'm actually able to chew the Hydro Pump from the Greninja thanks to my Assault Vest. I'm able to knock that thing out with a Moonblast. Here I am just going to sack off my Gardevoir to the Venomoth. It was overall my best play, and here is where I can potentially go for, honestly, the game right here at this point, or at least put myself in a position where I should be able to clean up with my Hawlucha just by weakening down this Venomoth. So my sequence of plays here are very methodical. Basically, the idea is to try to get the Venomoth into guaranteed range of my Corkscrew Crash behind the Reflect if I need to, as well as just trying to burn out the turns of his Reflect that remain. There's 3 turns of Reflect that remain. By the time all is said and done, I want to make sure that I have a Rock Polish up against him, because that will force him to sack off another Mon before he's actually able to revenge this thing, and that basically means he has to sack off his Meowstic. And if he sacks off his Meowstic at any point and Venomoth is weakened after like 1 or 2 more Iron Heads from this thing, or just after another round of rocks, it's going to be in range of Hawlucha, and that basically means that Hawlucha is going to be able to clean up the game right then and there if my Cobalion isn't able to do it on its own. So my play here is definitely to first of all go for the Taunt, expecting him to try to go for his Sleep Powder or to try to go for a Quiver Dance. He tries to go for the Quiver Dance, then I'm going to go for an Iron Head to hopefully get a flinch, or just, if anything, just to stall out another turn of the Reflect. Now on the last turn of the Reflect, I know I'm outside of range of a Savage Spin Out from the Venomoth. I'm able to set up the Rock Polish, and now I'm going to be able to just click attacks, because he has only one way to stop this thing at this point, and that is through a Prankster T-Wave from his Meowstic, or by setting up a Reflect and hoping that he survives a hit somehow. So here he's going to make an interesting play and just sack off his Registeel. I guess he expected that he would be able to survive the close combat if I was a Cobalion. That's what I assumed the reasoning behind that play was, but I'd be interested in hearing his thought process on that, as he's just going to try to paralyze my Cobalion with his Meowstic. I'm able to just break through and Corkscrew Crash it, and the Terrakion's going to be able to revenge my Cobalion, but now I have 2 Mons that should easily be able to take any hit in any close combat from this thing. I have 2 Scarfers remaining, literally, that can either outspeed this Jirachion and knock it out, or take any hit from it and then knock it out with the stab. Giga Drain if it was Roseraid, or the Halucha's low kick if I needed that as well. But, you know, Roseraid's got to get the last kill against the Oakland Roseraiders. So, great game to King L5. We do pick up the win 3-0, and we are advancing into the top 4 of this tournament. This was our top 8 match. Now we are in the top 4. We're going to be facing off against John W., who is the rep from the LD League Dependency, and that's going to definitely be a fun game as well. But once again, great game to my opponent. I'm not sure if he plans to upload. I hope he does, and if he does, make sure to go check out his link to his channel, which will be down below in the description. And, you know, let me know what you think about the transactions as well for this week, or just throughout the course of this tournament. I'd be very interested in hearing you guys' perspective on Surge format as a whole, how you think I've been doing, how you think you would enjoy the format, just stuff like that. Really interested in seeing and hearing what you have to say on that. But I think we are about done here for now. Thanks for watching, guys, and I guess be on the lookout for some fresh uploads coming up here, probably throughout the week. In case you didn't notice, maybe you don't follow me on Twitter or just haven't heard through the grapevine, I've actually joined the APA as a replacement coach for, I'm trying to think who, I think I'm replacing like Deathly I Am, I think is the person I'm replacing, and I have a pretty cool team that I'm working with. It is a Little Cup league, so if you've ever wanted to see me try Little Cup, this will be your chance, and I'm going to warn you now, I am not very good at Little Cup. So it'll be a challenge for sure, but I think it'll be fun too. It's a whole new ball game when it comes to prep. I've been talking with Styx a little bit about it. He's like a Little Cup mastermind, and like the prep and the mechanics of Little Cup are just so different than standard draft play that I think it'll be really fun and refreshing to at least try. Like, I might not be very good at it, and that's fine, but I think it'll still be a fun experience nonetheless. So be on the lookout for that. I have a game against Gypsy King right off the bat, who's currently undefeated in the league. So you'll see that here sometime soon. Not sure exactly what day yet, but I also have a game against Envy coming up pretty soon too. And I know I have a rematch against Under the Radar that I need to make up as well. I think that was a game that was missed like earlier on in the season. So anyway, be on the lookout for that. Typically those should be uploaded on Sundays, but I'm a little behind this week because of Surge. So yeah, you'll see that at some point. But yeah, I think I'm about done here. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.